Taoiseach, today in the North, public sector workers are taking strike action against the Tory government in London, and Sinn Féin supports this action. Taoiseach, Sinn Féin supports this action.
Would you allow Deputy Adams make his point, please? Thank you. Thank you.
For the third time, Georgia, Sinn Féin supports this action on these workers. Low-paid workers should not have to pay more in pension contributions. There are also many other people without jobs or pension provision who are being attacked by the Tories, and not just in the North. Here in this state, our own little Tory government is also inflicting this inequality upon citizens. Yesterday, Taoiseach, I called upon you. Yesterday, Taoiseach, I called upon you once again to cap public pensions and to ban the payment of these pensions to people in employment. And you said you were going to tackle this issue. But what you did was to add insult to injury. After yesterday's much heralded statement, the high flyers are left with huge pensions paid for with the people's money. Former Taoiseach still on public pensions of $147,000 a year, and our coalition of hecklers agrees with this. It's a disgrace, and there is no sign, Taoiseach, of your policies working on any front, here at home or in the EU. Just watch the crisis developing in the Eurozone, and your kowtown to the larger states has achieved nothing. I read the ESRI report. You contemplate cuts in child benefit, but no real cuts for the Golden Circle.
Question, please.
No money for jobs creation, but plenty of money for bondholders. No money for hospitals or carers or students, but plenty of money for your cronies and the political elites. Taoiseach, how can you stand over this?
Taoiseach?
Well, you see, first of all, I'm not sure what thesaurus you went to this morning to find the word Tory. You had a lot of dealings with him yourself, and you weren't afraid to take their money in Northern Ireland when it was very needed. It was needed for very good causes and for very good effect. Now, at least, Deputy Adams, this government has not been afraid to tackle a situation which has accrued over quite a number of years, where extraordinary pensions were paid to specific personnel, limited and small in number. And Minister Howlin at least has had the courage to start a process here where pensions in excess of 60,000 are being adjusted by 12%, and pensions in excess of 100,000 are being adjusted by 20%. The savings, I note, are of the order of 400,000. But you get the impression from the sort of ranting that you go on with, that if you took all the pensions of those over 100,000, it should sort out the national financial crisis. What's happened here, despite the fact, and in the context of which we have a constitution where people have specific rights, that the government have made a decision as a start of a broad process here to adjust pensions over 100,000 by 20% and pensions over 60,000 by 12%. It was never done before, and that's part of the decisions that have been taken by the government for higher paid public servants, the highest of which is now 200,000. I note in the last 2 days the remaining chief executive of a commercial state body has taken a voluntary pay cut as well. So, Deputy, it was never meant to be the answer to all the problems here, but it is part and start of a process where the government at least have a sense of fairness, that where those on the lower end have had to pay levies and charges of one sort or another, that those at the higher level should also be seen to pay their proportion. And as I said, it's the start of a process. At least Minister Howlin has had the courage to put his decision out there, and it's now effective.
Deputy Adams, please.
Yeah. Well, Taoiseach, sometimes in response to my questions, you say things about the North which are entirely self-serving and juvenile, and which diminish you and your office. Secondly, we're talking here about fairness or unfairness. We're talking here about equality, or indeed inequality. What is fair? about someone who is still working, drawing a pension out of the people's pockets of €147,000. Riddle me this. You know, yesterday you promised an elephant, and Minister Howland farted and produced a mouse. It's a disgrace, Taoiseach, what you're doing. The perpetuation...
Deputy, could I have your question, please?
The perpetuation of two Irelands. And I did use the term Tory, and I used the term Tory very deliberately and very, very consciously. Taoiseach, you promised a break from the past. You promised an end to cronyism. You promised an end to spin. Yesterday you promised that the Minister would come in here and make a statement in the Dáil. It was on the 6 o'clock news. That's how I learned about it. The Minister came in sometime
So could I have
later.
a supplementary question, please?
You also described your election as a democratic revolution. Now, where's the revolution? No, viva la revoluzione. And
Deputy, could I have your supplementary question, please?
You said this is the beginning of a process. Are you committing that these exorbitant pensions for those who are still working will be stopped, and that you will cap all other public pensions?
Please, sir.
As I said, this government has introduced a broad range of reforms across the spectrum here. For instance, in respect of, you've had reductions in pension, you've had the USC, you've had the top rate tax thing, you've had the additional reduction here of 20% over 100,000. That means that for somebody who was on a pension of 125,000, and these reductions are in place, they'll be down to 71,000. I think that's a pretty significant shift from a government that at least has set out what its view is about fairness and equality. Now, if you want to go off and start to hold language classes, you may do so. You've been speaking German, I don't know, is it French or Spanish, Italian, Irish and English. You're going to do very well.
He certainly isn't
And I hope that the staff will do that.